This is one huge piece of cherry, irregular shaped. Now there's a burl here, I can see that, and I see the remnants of one here. So all this means that inside there's a huge colouring of grain, I'm sure of that. So I'm going to just going to shape this irregular piece of cherry burl into something that's going to turn well. It's about 16 inches in diameter, so hopefully I'll get a fairly large bowl out of this. It is still fairly wet, so when this starts swinging, it's going to be very, very heavy. I can already feel it on the lathe. Going to take it very, very slow and easy. Now for my roughing tool, I'm going to use the Hunter Tools carbide cupped cutter. And I say cutter because the edge of this actual carbide insert is very, very sharp. It's not turning very, very fast. In fact, I'm only about 200 RPM. So I'm going to take it very, very slow and easy. Now, instead of putting this into the bandsaw, I'm going to use just a very small electric chainsaw just to get this a little more rounder and get some of these lumps off, so it's not going to be as hard a turn from the very start. So here we go. So a little bit of hacking and a bit of bandsawing. We've got this a little rounder on the back here. So hopefully should be able to get this nice curvature on the bowl here and expose some of this burl. The bit of wood sitting on top of the lathe bed now. It launched itself into space completely off the centres. Should have known better actually, because this is a very, very heavy piece of wood. So I'm going to slap that on, and hopefully it's going to hold on a little tighter. Okay, back on the lathe, let's give it another try. Now my goal here is to make a very thin walled bowl. It is fairly wet wood. I haven't measured it, but probably around about 12 to 15%. It's still wet, so I'm going to try and make the rims and faces very thin, and then I'm going to seal the whole thing with a finish that will encase the entire wood piece to stop it from drying any further and cracking and possibly overleaching. Already, I don't know whether you can see here on the camera here, but the cracks that were on the outside, of course, go right the way through the rim. There's a good 1.5 inches, so I don't want to actually lose that real estate. So I'm going to keep these cracks filled and present and make them, of course, a feature. And so the idea here is I'm going to turn the inside of the bowl, keeping as much meat as close to the top of the rim as possible, making it thin first, and then holding myself back so that I don't revisit that rim when it gets to a thin stage. The reason for this being is that this thing will vibrate. Also, when the bowl gouge gets to the top here, you've really got to hold that away from skeeting back and damaging the rim. Anyway, stick with me. One of the things I don't like about using CO glue on this sort of situation is that it does stain the wood. There's not much one can do about that. It's better that the CA holds the cracks at bay, and I just put the CA glue on this straight onto the wood into the cracks, and then I put some sawdust over the top just to fill the void. Well, as you can see, there's a bit of a rot setting in the bottom of the pot. So I'm going to have to probably fill that a little bit. Can't leave it like it is. And it's probably about 1 inch from the outside to the inside here. Yeah, so from here to here there's probably about 1 inch of meat left. And I don't really want to go too much further in here. The bottom needs to be skated out a little bit smoother. Going to get the scrapers on the inside, get these tool marks out and fill that. Now, against my better judgment, I'm going to use the Abrasive carving head to make a little indent into that rot that's there. Really got to take that out because to fill it, it's really got to adhere to the side. So I've got to bring this piece into a hollow with most of the rot taken out. So this will do the job for sure, but it's pretty aggressive, so it might go all the way through the bowl. So here we go. Okay, that's looking pretty good, actually. It's not going all the way through. Might go a little bit deeper. Okay, it's fairly deep, but most of the rot's been taken out. And I'm going to use some 5-minute epoxy with, I think, some bronze tint, just to match the rest of the wood here. It will certainly seal this, and hopefully it's going to be fairly well hidden when the bowl's done. Hopefully it looks like part of this burl that's coming through from the outside and the inside. Okay, let's get the bowl off and put some epoxy in this hole. By the way, the old Abrasive shaping gouge, or bowl gouge, it's not bowl but bowl, B-A-L-L. This thing goes around at 18,000 RPM, and it's got a carbide cutter all the way around. It's looking a bit worse for wear because I'm using this a lot on other jobs, but it did the job. It fit that hole nice and smooth and made the wall smooth. So the main thing is when the bowl gouge gets back onto the surface, it's going to be very, very smooth. Okay. Alright, well that's turned out pretty well. The hole is filled and it matches the burl colour, so I'm pretty happy with that. Got a few divots in there, but you know, I'm just going to use that to fill with the finish that I'm going to be putting on there. I'm really leaning towards having the whole thing encased in a tabletop epoxy. I want the shiny look, and I want all of this wood completely sealed, so there's no ovalization or cracking that checks and cracking as time goes on. The outside and the inside of the bowl, I'm going to use the wood 750 from Clean Armour. This is that UV wood sealer, which takes about 2 minutes for it to set. I'm going to put that as the initial coat on the inside and the outside, and then I'm going to fully coat it with tabletop epoxy. So this stuff does actually coexist. Just put it on with a lint-free cloth and coat every last scrap of area. Usually leave it for about 5 minutes just to settle into the wood, and then put the UV light on it to cure it. Now I do this really because the tabletop epoxy will react with moisture in the wood. They get a lot of bubbles, and it has some pretty well strange effects if the wood is too wet. This isn't actually, it's probably about 12, maybe 10 or 12% moisture content. Again, that's just a pretty shoot from the hip because I haven't put a meter on it. And the UV light. So you can see I've got the old barbecue spigot on the bottom of the bowl, and I've mixed up some tabletop epoxy. It's usually clearer than this. It has been pretty cold weather just lately, I'm hoping that's going to dry out clear. Well, we'll soon see. So that's got to stay on the barbecue spit for at least 24 hours. If this adheres nicely, it'll come out as you're seeing it right now. But you never can tell when we're using with tabletop epoxy what sort of reactions we're going to have to the surface and the wood. Anyway, we'll see how it looks tomorrow. We all got friction chucks one way or another. This is a bit of off-cut wood. It was actually a bowl that failed somewhere. Locked into the small chuck here and a lump of foam connected on the outside with some glue. Use a shop paper towel on the front and then mount the latest piece onto the friction chuck. This protects the inside of the bowl when it's being pushed up against with the tailstock. It's one way of removing a foot from the bottom of the bowl. That's the end of this week's project. The bowl came out very, very nice, as you can see. Give you a quick turnaround on the camera there. On the inside, the shine of it and gloss of this tabletop epoxy really sets the bowl off, and the wood complemented. I know there's a lot of wood turners out there saying, that resin, not going to be touching it. Well, I've kind of got a marriage of just the plain wood and also the epoxy resin to give it a good finish. It's extremely glossy. I did end up putting some UV epoxy resin on the bottom to seal it up. So this bowl's going nowhere. It's not going to overlay, it's not going to crack. The whole thing's sealed. So any moisture content is going to be trapped inside and it will go nowhere. Normally the bowls, conventionally, I'll put in an oil or a finish, friction finish, all different types of finishes. They are exposed to the air and they will continue to dry. So we can see here, I'm very pleased with the outcome anyway. Thank you very much for watching. A shout out to Rich, aka Sean. Good on you, mate. And stick with me for next week's. And I'll enjoy having you with me for this week. Cheers.